Okay, this is a Dynacraft Wipeout that I picked up off the side of the road. It is not in very good shape. The front horseshoe brakes are a bit bent. It's obviously been left out in the weather a lot. The tires are rotted. The brake lever is destroyed. The kickstand is loose. One of the pedals is busted in half. The other one is pretty bad too. The seat's got a small hole in it. And the steering is misaligned. But it's got okay bones. I'm going to say up front, this is a Walmart bike. Not valuable, like in the slightest. Somebody left this on the side of the road, just a little ways down the road from me, like not even a mile, with a sign that said free. Now, I've got the parts, and almost entirely have the parts, except for maybe those front brakes if I cannot repair them. But I've got brake handles, I've got grips, I've got tires. Over there are 2 used tires that are going to go on this. They're a little old, a little used, but they should work just fine. The seat, just this small tear here, but I've got a workaround. I have this dollar store duct tape. Surprisingly, this is really good stuff. The grain on the stitching for the tape is really close. I bought way more expensive rolls of duct tape where the spacing was way farther apart and it tore way easier. This stuff is actually pretty darn good. And just a small square of this over that little hole right there will work just fine. I've done it before and it'll even last for years, surprisingly. Both the front and rear reflector were broken, but I've got a bunch of these laying around, so it's fine. I've got a used set of pedals right here. I got junk bikes I can pull a brake handle off of, no problem. It'll need a little tweaking, a little cleaning, but once it's all come together, I'll put it up for sale for about $10, and then some kid who needs a bike can get one real cheap. Okay, update. I have removed the broken brake handle, and I have straightened out the steering, and I've repaired the front brake horseshoe. It's not perfect. It required some unbending with a mix of a crescent wrench and pliers. The wheels are going to need some work. I am going to have to attempt adjustment on the front wheel because of the hand brakes. Unless I were to remove them entirely, it will need to be straight enough. And I have fixed this, which was previously down to here, as you can see on the markings here. Easy way to do that: take a bit of WD-40, get it under there, squirt it in, and then wrench it around a bit, take it off, clean off as much of the WD-40 as you can, and then slide it back on. The WD-40 will eventually dry out inside, and the handle grip will be firmly in place again where it's supposed to be. I pulled this out of my parts bin just because it saves me the time of having to go after one on a parts bike outside. And I already have the bolt from the previous handle, which will hopefully fit. Okay, seat is repaired. There were 2 tears on it, both of which have been fixed with duct tape. Once this tape has been on there for a little while, it'll stay stuck on there pretty good. Okay, replacement pedals are on. The more this bike gets shaken around as I work on it, the more it seems to shed little bits, because there's clumps of dirt and debris just stuck to it all over. And I'm going to have to give it a decent wipe down when this is all done. Since I am still very much an amateur, I don't have a lot of experience straightening wheels by tightening and loosening spokes. I mean, clockwise to loosen, counterclockwise to tighten. But this is actually pretty acceptable. You can see in the video, the wobble is not that bad. Considering the bend that was in it before, this is actually pretty good, and it'll be good enough for cheap Walmart handbrakes. Now I'm going to have to do the rear. Okay, without proper facilities, I've managed to minimize the rear wheel bend as much as I could. This bike likely took a rather significant fall at some point, but it should function just fine after this. Whether or not I can salvage the front brakes, it's still got coaster brakes, and that'll be all it'll really need. Well, this front brake cable just keeps coming apart. It's beyond saving. Fortunately for me, I went digging out in the junk bikes outside, and I managed to pull another cable that's okay. Hopefully that'll do it. I've got the replacement front tire on. I've got the replacement brake cable on. I've replaced both reflectors with ones from my junk pile. But the end of this cable, I don't have a cable tip, so my trick is to use hot glue. This works just fine on a budget, and will allow you to put a tip on these without any sort of special tools. And if you already have a hot glue gun, this is the perfect way to go. That'll work just fine. And the front brakes, the new handle, it stops just fine. I checked. All that is left is checking the crank to make sure it's tightened down and the bearings are lubed. Sadly, I don't have any bearing grease, but regular spray lube will have to do. And I need to swap out the rear tire. Well, I burned myself with the hot glue gun. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Surprisingly, the crank bearings on this bike are fine. No wobble, like, at all. And they don't crunch either, so I don't need to touch them. But what isn't quite fine is this. See that wobble there? Yeah. Whatever crash this bike took that messed it up before didn't help this, but prolonged use could have also done it, because the tires on it were fairly worn. But I got this one going, that one's already on it. Now I just need to tighten these down and get everything back together, and then I gotta clean it. Bit of a setback. The rear tire that I had picked out to go on this bike is too decrepit. So it looks like this may end up becoming the rear tire instead. I had to go and give away all my good parts tires to a guy from Ukraine who bought like 4 bikes off of me, and he wanted spare tires for them. I'm gonna have to take off the front wheel again. Okay, I decided to go completely different, and I had this fatty street tire out back. Another one from the bike shop's used tire pile. And I remember it was paired up with the tire that I reselected for the front, and I'm like, whatever. I might as well turn this bike into a street machine, because odds are it's going to go to a city kid anyways. So, just finish with the front tire, clean it up, and then it should be done. Okay, now for paint touch-ups. Nail polish, I have some dark red here and some metallic maroon. This bike is just... it's got a little bit of metallic in it in some places. Yeah, but it's mostly regular red, I think. But yeah, came together pretty well. Okay, it is done. Tires are on. Brakes are good. Tubes are good. Chain still in need of lubing, but otherwise good. Paint has been touched up. Lots of little chips all over the place that needed filling in. Handle grips are good. New brake handle is good. New brake cable, or recycled brake cable anyway, is good. Hot glue tip, good. New pedals, good. Replacement reflectors, front and back. So they're good. This was a complete success. Free bike found on the side of the road. Now this will make some kid happy for a very low price.